Ryan Tamminga, welcome to the conversation today.
Thanks. Great to be here.
It is a real pleasure to be with you. You're joining us from Denver. I'm south of Salt Lake City in Utah. And today we're going to be talking about how human resources can leverage automation to drive employee engagement. We live in an age of disruption, constant development of new AI, robotics, advanced robotics, machine learning. Automation is the name of the game. And I think it's not slowing down. We're going to continue to just see continued exponential growth in the realm of automation. And at the same time, there's a heightened sense that we need to be focusing on employee experience. We need to be talking about employee engagement. We need to figure out how we can really truly leverage the human capacity, the human potential of our people amidst this technological revolution, right? And it's a bit of an irony, perhaps. It's this tension that's going on. We got the robots and we got the people, right? And we have to have the human side. And so we're really going to flesh this out. We're going to explore this together today. As we get started, I wanted to share Ryan's bio with everybody. Ryan Tamminga is the Senior Vice President of Product and Services at Alchemer. Ryan has over 15 years of experience in both industry and consulting roles with Fortune 100 companies across products, media, resources, and healthcare sectors. He has a proven track record for improving core operations performance, providing thought leadership, and driving results through strategy development, operating model design, processes excellence, and implementation of enabling technologies. He has deep expertise in customer experience, employee experience, finance, SAP, robotic process automation, zero-based budgeting, and analytics. Ryan is passionate about architecting complex business transformations as well as cultivating people and business growth. All of that is awesome. You have such a tremendous background. You've done so many great, amazing things. Anything you would like to focus on in terms of your background and personal context that you'd like to share with the audience before we dive on into the broader conversation?
Yeah. I think the thing that's so exciting about the topic we're going to cover today, I spent the first majority of my career with Accenture and Deloitte doing
Mm,
business services implementations that would normally include some sort of HR, shared service model or COE or outsourcing capability. And so I think over the last, almost 20 years now, I've seen the journey that HR professionals have taken from, moving into more of a cost-effective model. And then you see technologies like Workday come out and they start to automate and the focus on self-service and,
yeah.
really tuning that service delivery model over time. And I think we're getting to a place where there's actually a really nice balance between kind of building centers of excellence, having a really complex and sophisticated service delivery network, but still making it easy for people to get what they need when they just need to do it themselves. And
Mhm.
really intuitive tools like Workday or Paylocity and tools like that. And now, it gives our HR teams really the power to focus on how do they continue to make the employee experience better from, day one of submitting your resume all the way through kind of exiting an organization. There's such a great place where we can focus on making all of the aspects of what a touch your experience better.
Yeah, yeah. So you mentioned companies like Workday, and there's all these different companies, all these different tools, right? And they have been around for a long time. And the self-service model of HR has only grown and been leveraged increasingly over the years. But we can also say it's been clunky.
Yeah.
It's been for better or worse, it's been utilized in organizations. Um, more so in recent years. And to your point about employee experience, at times it's been incredibly frustrating for employees.
Yeah.
So, we've gone
Totally.
from this model of, HR being seen, personnel management. You go to HR, they're filling out forms, they're going and pulling your file, they're helping you fill out your paperwork for benefits, and they're doing all that kind of stuff. To now we're doing the self-service model. And if the systems aren't working particularly well, or if you're having to go like 10 clicks deep to try to navigate and find stuff, it can be really hard to navigate. It can be frustrating. And thankfully, all of that's getting smoother. It's getting better. It's getting more user friendly, easier to navigate. And with uh, robotics, sorry, not robotics, with advanced AI and machine learning and all of these things that have only been advancing in recent years, it's just getting better and better and better. We're able to get just in time answers to our questions easier and easier. And all of these tools are just getting so much more useful so that the interfaces are getting better. The ability for us to get what we need just within, 2 to 3 clicks in is enhanced. And I know from my personal experience as an employee, I can say my experience has gone dramatic. It's been dramatically improved,
Yeah.
just over the last 5 years, which I'm grateful for. And I suspect many listeners can say the same thing. So awesome. Like that's improved tremendously. And I suspect it will continue to in the coming years. What has been your experience and what do you see coming down the pipeline in terms of how those automations are helping that employee experience?
Well, I'll speak a little bit specifically about what we do here at Alchemer in
Yeah.
terms of our customers with their employee experience. So one of the things that we've brought, so we're a CX, EX, voice of the
Hmm.
customer, voice of the employee, feedback management company, whatever kind of your definition of choice is. But we take more of an operational perspective of how collecting people's feedback can
Hmm.
actually change your experience, right? And we focus on being able to connect feedback to the core systems that are running your operation in a way that engages that data that makes the process better or makes the experience better. So I'll give a couple of examples that I've had just recent conversations with a couple of our customers on that I think will paint that in a light that will then kind of drive our perspective on automation. But you know, if you think about HR operations, it's such a wide range of things that they do. I think people tend to think of employee engagement as your annual employee engagement survey, and
Right.
you blast the survey out, everyone answers 50 questions. Somebody stands up at a company all hands meeting and says, "Here's the 10 things we're going to go do next year to improve the experience of the employee." And it can go so much deeper and more specific than that.
Yeah.
So you can either focus on improving a specific process or experience of an employee, or you can focus on how do you deploy the right service model to the right employees at the right time. And I'll cover both of those cases. But I recently just had a conversation with a company that runs very large contact centers. So they've
Hmm.
got lots and lots of employees, medium to high turnover in some of their locations just due to the nature of their workforce. But one of the things they had a hypothesis on was if we can make the employee experience better in the first 100 days, they're more likely to stick around, right? You spend a lot
Hmm.
of money acquiring talent, you spend a lot of money training this talent, you want it to stick around and really thrive in your environment. And so what we built with our product set is an ability to listen to the events in your core HR or HCM applications, and then based on something that's happening, trigger a survey that goes to an employee. And then we use our workflow kind of orchestration concept to start to drive action on the back end of that. And so what we built for them was a kind of a series of surveys that goes out on end of day one, week
Hmm.
day 7, day 14, day 30. And all of that is tracked based on the employee start date and a couple of triggers of different activities that happen within their workday application. And so no one has to watch this. We set it and forget it. And it just, when a new employee shows up, they check in first day, active employee. We listen for the active status. We listen for, the next kind of step in their onboarding process as they complete it. We send a survey to that employee and we ask very simple questions like, how's your first week? What's one thing that you've been pleasantly surprised about? What's one thing that we could do differently to make your experience better? And depending on how you answer that question, we then trigger workflow out of our product back into the organization and either create a case for the HR rep to follow up with that employee and intervene, or maybe you send a note to their hiring manager and let them know that here's the things that they're liking, here's some things you should connect with as part of your next conversation. And what we built is an ability for the same size team to now reach every single employee as they're going through their onboarding process and learn what's making that employee's experience great and what they need to do to intervene to make it better. And again, you may be fixing some things along the way for that one person, but at least you're intervening at the right time and you're course correcting and making that experience better over that first 30, 60, 90 days. And then after you've gone through, 100 different employees, you've got the themes that you can start to learn more about where you can implement kind of more of a macro change to improve the experience for the next group of people that are going to start. And so we built this automated process that just runs every day, and it's really helping them improve what that employee experience is in their first 100 days. And it's reduced their turnover pretty significantly over the last 6 months, which is really cool. So that's one that we're really excited about.
Yeah, yeah, and that example, I first of all, the day of the annual engagement survey, I think we're past that. I mean, there's nothing wrong, I suppose, with continuing to do an annual engagement survey, but if that's all you're doing, you're missing the boat. So let's do more than that. That's so 20 years ago or 10 years ago. We can do push surveys and get a lot more real-time data like you're describing. And there's all sorts of problems with just doing that annual engagement survey. Engage the survey fatigue is one of them. Just the proximity issues with only doing once a year survey. There's just so many problems, right? But one of the things I just really like about what you just described is the set and forget kind of mentality of just in simple. You didn't actually explain how long these little surveys are, but I imagine they're extremely short, just maybe
Yeah.
one or two questions each one, right? They're just like very, very simple. So they're quick responses. People just answer them in real time. They move on. They don't even have to. They probably forget about it, right? They just move on. So they're just honest, quick responses. There's no reason for them to try to think about, well, what does my boss want me to answer? It's just you're just going to get real answers. You're going to get real responses, and in the aggregate, you're going to get more real time data that can help you improve. I just think it's vastly superior data to help you improve the experiences of your employees. So this is exactly the type of engagement data that we want to be collecting. So kudos on
Well,
helping
I
organizations
think one of the
design it.
things that we try to preach to our customers here at Alchemer is, you really need to earn people's feedback, right? I
Yeah.
think for a long time, you get so many take my survey, take my product survey, tell me more about your experience stuff in your Gmails and things that I think people, throw them in their junk boxes because they just nothing ever happens with the feedback that you've given, right? They're like,
Yeah.
10 minutes, answered a bunch of questions, and I never see myself in the product experiences or the employee experience, whatever it ends up being. And so I think, to really focus on the value of capturing people's feedback, you need to do something with it. And I think by engaging it in these kind of autonomous ways where it doesn't feel like I'm just saying something and nothing ever happens, right? Like I said something like, hey, after my second week, I'm really struggling to get into my job because I don't understand how this program works on my computer. And then somebody shows up and adds a little extra training to make sure you're available. They're like, it becomes part of the DNA of your culture of your company that when I say something, people are listening. And there's lots of different ways of sharing my feedback and for people to listen. But when things happen on the back end of it for the better, it really just starts to flywheel how much feedback you get and
Mm.
how trusting your employees will get with how you're collecting feedback. It's not just a did I guess and say the right thing kind of thing, but it's like I'm saying what I need and someone's doing something about it. So next time someone asks, of course I'm going to tell you what I need.
Yeah. Two things. One, I love the flywheel
Mhm.
metaphor. I think that's a really powerful uh, way to think about it. And let's talk a little bit more about that here in just a minute. But also, yeah, so not only in the aggregate can we collect the data so that we can start to make macro level improvements over time, but you're absolutely right. When we get this real time data on the micro level, we can actually address real time issues and real time concerns, which is also very powerful. So it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the flywheel aspect
Yeah.
of this because you're absolutely right. With the feedback that you're getting, it's something that we're able to do we're able to just respond in a way that you couldn't otherwise. Um, Describe that for me a little bit more and how you build this into your process.
Yeah. I think again, we talked a little bit about how technology's evolved over the last, especially in our industry over the last 5 years, pretty significantly. And it's changing in a way that, again, I think when you used to run surveys, you have to go run an engagement survey because there's not really an effective way to reach a large mass of people and do something about anything. So you're just like, hey, I need 1,000 people or more to respond to 50 questions, and I'm going to put together some pie charts, and I'm going to go tell somebody a whole bunch of things to go do. And that was kind of the traditional approach to taking people's feedback and going and employing it for action. And I think today, because we can wire feedback into how your core operation runs into those core systems like a Workday, we're able to accelerate the timeliness and the moments that matter of what you can actually provide from a feedback perspective. So you can have an onboarding experience survey. You could have surveys that go out to very specific employee populations that are challenging to manage, right? Like, union
Yeah.
regulations require you to manage in a very different way. And so you want to make sure that you're serving those populations appropriately. And now we can do this in a way that leverages the data that's sitting in these operating platforms to make things more specific and timely. And I think the biggest thing that's happened is because we can integrate so well now, we put all the data where it needs to be, where it can be best leveraged by HR organizations. So we'll fire that data back into your HCM application or your BI tools. But the really, really cool thing that's pushing things forward is the fact that you don't have to be so prescriptive in the way that you ask questions anymore because of the way that large language models and AI has kicked into understanding text. So you can ask the simple two questions of what's the best part of your week? What's the one thing you want us to improve? And because I can understand what you're saying through these large language model and AI technologies at scale, I can let you use your own voice and then still be able to do something about it. And so, integrations, being able to listen to operating events in these systems, being able to listen to large amounts of open text, like really gets at the emotion quickly. So I think it's just a really exciting time where we're actually making it easier for people to share their feedback and making it easier for the folks who need to interpret and do something about it to, get those insights in a very, very timely manner that is very actionable.
Yeah, and can I say, I do consulting work, and things like this podcast, which I love. But first and foremost, I'm a professor. I'm a researcher, and I would say I'm a mixed methods researcher. But first and foremost, I mostly do quantitative statistical analysis and stuff. Why? In part because it's just easier.
Yeah.
It's time consuming to work with qualitative data. And you're right. Leveraging AI in the analysis of qualitative data is so stinking helpful.
Yeah.
It's something that has opened up a whole new world in the qualitative research realm. Just in the last couple of years, that has made it so much more. Uh, it's easier to deal with large amounts of qualitative data today than it was a couple of years ago. It just is. And whether you're doing an interview or a focus group or being able to deal with open-ended responses in a survey or whatever it is and look at thematic elements and pull out what people are saying, it's it's tremendous. It's wonderful. And so no longer do we just have to force like a square peg into a round hole where we force someone to answer a question, with a 5-point Likert scale, or where
Yeah.
we force them to choose from 5 responses where they don't see themselves in any of those 5 responses. They just kind of have to force themselves into it. Now they can just respond the way they honestly feel, and that's awesome because you're going to get a much richer kind of depth to what people are saying.
Well,
They
and
get
humans
to
are kind
respond
of
in their own
funny.
voice, like you said.
They're kind of funny creatures, right? Like if I ask
Yeah.
you what of these three flavors of ice cream, what's your favorite? You're going to choose the flavor that you think you like the best. But if I ask you what's your favorite dessert, you might say cheesecake. I actually don't
Right.
like ice cream, right? So,
Right.
so like it gives us that power to really get at what somebody's really wanting to tell you, which is really, really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, where do you like if you were to prognosticate? Obviously, we don't have a crystal ball, but given the work that you do at Alchemer, a year out, 2 years, 5 years out? Like, where do you see things going with HR, tech, automation, and employee engagement and employee experience? It's the wild, wild west of AI and machine learning within the HR tech world. Like, where do you see things going?
I think the path towards providing really valuable employee experiences is reducing friction, right? Like
Hmm.
what you don't want your employees doing is worrying about their benefits or their paychecks or like their PTO schedule. All these, you want them to focus on their job, and so you've got to make all of the things that support how you come to work as easy as possible. To Prior to coming to Alchemer, I spent a couple of years at an organization that did absence management outsourcing for very,
Hmm.
very large employers, right? And I think when people think about HR, sometimes they think about, well, my performance review, or it's an employee engagement survey, or it's my W-2, or things like that. But there's so much complexity in a lot of the aspects of our work. Leave of absence being one that it can get very, very complicated. Similar, like, I think our benefits programs, especially healthcare benefits, are sometimes challenging to understand. 401ks and all the different options there. Like there's so many benefits that are great that you provide to your employee group, but they're really hard to understand sometimes, especially in concert together. And I think the automation aspect of self-service has made the easy stuff easy and accessible. I think AI and better engagement with your employees through the types of feedback we're talking about, will make those more complicated aspects of your employee experience less easier to consume and understand, and again reduce the friction of your ability to come to work and do your job really effectively. So I would see more and more technology moving towards helping people understand those more complex areas of what employers provide to their employees. And I think that's really, really exciting because, like I said, I listened to a couple of calls from our contact center back when I was working at the absence management business. And, when someone's calling in about a leave of absence benefit, sometimes that could be the most stressful moment of their lives,
Right.
and they're worried about maybe their loved one or themselves. And they're worried about their employment and what this is going to mean to pay. And there's a whole bunch of things in that equation that understanding whether you're FMLA eligible and what your short-term disability benefit's going to be like, if that's the most concerning thing that you're worried about in that moment of stress, like we're doing something wrong, and we've got to make it easier for someone to get at those types of benefits and focus on what really matters, which is return to work, right? And so I'm really excited to see how technology and automation is going to help provide an easier path for people to really use the benefits that are available to them, while making sure that the HR teams that are supporting them don't have to bend over backwards or go to great lengths to do so.
Yeah, yeah. That's my hope too. I think that's what's coming down the pipeline, and certainly that's what we've seen. I mean, if you look at the trends,
Yeah.
that's what's been happening. Is it's been getting better and better, smoother and smoother. And I guess I have no reason to think it's not going to continue that direction. And I sure hope that um, the 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 addition of these generative AI and large language models into these systems, with Workday and all the other companies that are leveraging them, and companies like yours that are building in these just-in-time feedback loops for employers to better understand how to address issues within the employee life cycle. Hopefully, it'll just get better and better and better and better. It's to the point where we just have wonderful, amazing workplaces. And my dream, maybe this is totally a utopian dream, but I just hope that we get to the point where people just love going to work and they have great experiences, and we get rid of all of the garbage and the junk, the stuff that doesn't need to be there, the stuff that if we get the right systems in place, like you said, if someone's having a bad day because something in their family, something bad goes wrong and they have to deal with it, that they don't have to, it's not exacerbated because now they have to spend 2 hours trying to deal with the the HR system to figure out how to navigate it. Like hopefully that can all be streamlined, and I hope that can happen. Well, Ryan, this has just been a really fun conversation. It's been a pleasure speaking with you and learning more about Alchemer and everything that you do. As we start to wrap things up, I just wanted to give you a chance to share with the audience how they can connect with you, find out more about your work, your team,
Yeah.
and then give us the final word on the topic for today.
Cool. I think if you want to get a hold of me, obviously LinkedIn is an easy way to do so. So look me up on LinkedIn, Ryan Tamminga. And then obviously alchemer.com, you can reach out to us via our website. You can learn about all of the solutions that we provide for our HR and HR operation teams. They're really, really exciting. And I think, like I said, we really try to focus on how can we improve the operation of HR, and through that, make the experience of every employee better every day. And so I think just it's culmination of the conversation. I think the more channels and the more opportunity you have to listen to your employees, the better. And the more you can wire it into the way that your HR teams work and your business partners work, the more people are going to feel like you care about them as individuals and what they have to say. And it will just blend. People talk about being customer obsessed all the time. I think people need to also be employee obsessed, because you can't be
Agreed.
customer obsessed with unhappy employees. And if you start to wire this into the DNA of the way that you think about your process, think about your systems, think about your employee engagement, the only thing you can do is win, right? No one ever loses because their employees are unhappy, or sorry, are happy. So I think, yeah, just keep focusing and just keep improving little by little and focus on the next best experience and keep going.
Yeah, love it. Ryan, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure. I encourage the audience to reach out, to get connected, find out more about what Ryan and his team can do for you. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe, that you can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week.